Hey guys, tonight we're stepping into a place where the horizon is ice, the sunlight is merciless, and every step you take squeaks beneath fur-lined boots. You're not in Kansas anymore. You're somewhere much colder. Somewhere where squinting isn't just annoying, it's dangerous. Welcome to the Arctic tundra, where Inuit hunters carved bone into science and survival. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And hey, drop your location and local time in the comments. I love seeing where and when you're tuning in from. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You trudge across a blank world, not so much walking through snow as being swallowed by it. There's no edge to the sky, no warmth to the sun, and yet it's everywhere. Light comes from above, below, behind your eyelids. The snow reflects it so aggressively it feels personal, like the land has a vendetta against your corneas. You squint. Then you squint harder. Eventually you just close your eyes between steps. And that's your first mistake. Because when you open them again, it's like someone poured bleach into your retinas. You're experiencing what countless Arctic wanderers feared most, snow blindness. The light bounces so efficiently off the ground that your eyes swell water and throb from the inside. You have yet to meet an enemy you can't see because you can't see anything. This is where the story really begins. Before we can craft the world's first sunglasses, we have to understand the world that demanded them. Imagine growing up in a land where darkness was rare, where summer nights never came, and where your enemy wasn't the cold, it was the glare. Imagine learning to read the snow not by color, but by texture, depth, and shadow. White isn't just white. Up here, it's smooth ice, white, wind-blown dune, white, predator, hiding white. You reach the edge of a frozen river, and suddenly the wind shifts. It whistles through the hood of your parka and tugs at the sewn seams like a curious child. You pull it tighter, remembering what an elder once said, the cold won't kill you if you respect it, but it'll test you just the same. The dogs. Yes, you're part of a sled team today begin to slow. They've caught a scent. You squint again, and this time you try to see what they see. But it's impossible. Your eyes are too human, too soft. You need help, and not just the kind of help that comes with advice. You need gear. Now imagine this. Instead of sunglasses made in factories with polarized lenses and adjustable frames, you're given a thin piece of bone, whalebone maybe, or antler, that's been shaved down and notched with 2 tiny slits. That's it. No glass, no UV rating, just a band of sinew or braided hair to tie it around your head. You slip it on, and suddenly the world narrows but sharpens. It's like viewing life through keyholes, small but powerful. The snow glare softens, the details return. You can tell where the snow has been disturbed, where it's been packed, where something warm might have left a trail. Snow goggles weren't a fashion statement. They were necessity turned into art. They were survival with a side of elegance. You'll soon learn that the craftsmanship behind these things rivals modern engineering in its precision. But for now, you follow the dogs. The sled glides with less effort than you'd imagined snow, like silk dogs, like wind. And in the distance, over a gentle rise, you see the shapes of others. Your hunting party, their silhouettes shifting through the light like ghosts wearing fur. One of them turns and waves. You've made it. This is just the beginning of your long Arctic walk. And trust me, by the time we reach the part where you start carving your own snow goggles out of caribou tibia, you'll wonder how people ever thought this was boring. You wake up inside a structure that defies your expectations. No sharp angles, no hard corners, just curves and soft shadows. The igloo doesn't creak or groan. It exhales gently around you, holding the night like a warm breath. The walls are thick snow blocks packed by hands that have done this for generations, angled slightly inward to press into a perfect dome. It's colder than a fridge, but somehow warmer than outside, and you're starting to understand why Inuit hunters consider this place home. Today is a tracking day. You step out into a morning that looks suspiciously like the night. The sky is pastel gray, hinting at blue, and the sun is just a smudge above the horizon. You squint again, still too bright, but the goggles tucked into your seal pelt belt are ready. Not yet. First, you need to walk. Your party is preparing wrapping feet in sealskin checking sled lashings, uncoiling ropes with a patience that only comes from repetition. You're handed a long spear, slender, balanced, wickedly light. You do your best to hold it like you know what you're doing, but your fingers fumble with the unfamiliar. The caribou are out there. Hunting isn't a matter of chance. It's a ritual, a rhythm. You walk in silence, snow crunching under mukluks made from caribou hide. These boots are stitched with sinew thread waterproofed with fish oil and lined with moss for insulation. They're quiet. That's the point. You're not stomping through the wilderness. You're gliding, listening, becoming part of it. Your companion, an older man with a parka. The color of stone, stops and kneels. He points. There in the soft snow are tracks deep at the heel, splayed at the front. Caribou. The trail is fresh. You start moving again, this time lower, quieter. The pace isn't fast. It's thoughtful, economical. Every movement in this environment has a cost, and every unnecessary action might mean the difference between a warm dinner and another night, chewing old seal blubber. As you follow the tracks, your eyes adjust. You're beginning to see the way the snow talks. That ridge, a gust of wind, that divot. A hoof pressed down, shifted, lifted. It's all a language if you learn to read it. The snow goggles will help with that later, but for now your eyes are raw, learning the hard way. A young girl walks beside you, maybe 12 years old, maybe 30. It's hard to tell under all the layers. She carries no weapon, just a pouch slung over one shoulder. Every now and then she bends to examine the trail, picks up a pellet of caribou dung, crumbles it thoughtfully. You try not to stare. She notices. It's still warm, she says, and keeps walking. That's your first lesson. Caribou are central to everything here. Food tools, clothing, even fuel in the form of dried dung. You learn that no part of the animal is wasted. Bones become needles. Tendons become thread. The hide becomes homes, blankets, boots. And later, a strip of polished antler might become your first true snow goggles. You press on, learning the rhythm of the land. The wind starts to pick up, stinging your cheeks, tugging at your thoughts. You realize how quiet everything is. No birds, no trees. Just you, your breath, the distant shuffle of the sled. Suddenly, your guide halts. Ahead, on a slope peppered with willow scrub, you see them caribou grazing unaware. It's not a charge. It's a wait. The Inuit hunters crouch, spread out, merge with the landscape like brushstrokes. You do the same awkwardly and fumble your goggles onto your face. Through the slits, the world sharpens. You stay that way for what feels like hours. And then it happens, swift, precise. A whistle, a dog bark. The caribou startle, and the hunters move. Spears fly ropes, snap dogs, surge forward. It's not chaos, it's choreography. And when it's done, the snow is red, but briefly. The hunters offer quiet words. You don't understand the language, but the meaning is respect. Later, by the fire pit, the meat roasts. The air smells like smoke iron and fat. You're handed a piece, tender, steaming primal. You chew, and it tastes like effort. One hunter nudges you and points to your goggles. "You'll want to carve your own," he says. "Those are mine." Fair enough. The cold sneaks in like a thought you didn't invite. At first, it's gentle, a chill at the edge of your fingertips, a breeze under your collar. But it builds. It deepens. It becomes something you carry with you, a companion that hums in your bones. You step outside the camp, and the wind greets you with teeth. There is no tree to break it, no hill tall enough to hide behind. The Arctic wind is like truth, unapologetic, direct, and always present. You tug your hood tighter and check your boots. Your breath clouds before you, then vanishes like a ghost that doesn't want to linger. Today is a maintenance day. The sled needs checking, meat needs storing, and most importantly, your hands need warming. You sit near the blubber lamp, a shallow dish carved from soapstone filled with rendered seal fat and lit with a simple wick. It gives off a steady golden flame that dances lazily in the igloo's dimness. It doesn't make the air hot, but it keeps the cold respectful. As you hold your fingers over the heat, you notice how everyone else moves slowly. Not because they're lazy, but because every gesture here matters. Nothing is wasted. Energy is as precious as food. A lazy movement is a luxury no one can afford. You mimic this stillness, letting your body settle into its place the way snow does after a storm. A woman sits across from you, sewing a seam in her son's parka. The needle glints a slender bone tool, honed to near perfection. The thread, sinew again. Always sinew. She doesn't look up as she speaks. Your cheeks are red. Windburn or frost nip. You don't know. You shrug. She smirks. You'll learn. And she's right. Later, as you go to check on the meat cache, a pit dug deep into the permafrost. You notice how the wind isn't just cold, it's clever. It finds seams, pokes holes in your defenses. The fur lining of your mittens, the drawstrings on your parka, the stitches around your ankles. Every small failure invites the cold to move in. The hunters aren't afraid of the cold. They respect it like a bad neighbor with a key to your house. You walk beyond the igloos to relieve yourself and realize your breath has frozen on your scarf, forming tiny stalactites that tug at your chin when you turn. Your eyelashes have gathered frost. Your nostrils crunch when you inhale. You start to laugh quietly, a little hysterically, because there's nothing else to do. This place is absurd. Beautiful. Impossible. That night you lie wrapped in caribou hides, listening to the wind batter the igloo like it's making a case. But you're warm. Not because of the hides or the lamp alone, but because everything here is a system, interconnected, intentional. You're part of it now. Before sleep takes you, you think about the goggles. Tomorrow they'll start teaching you to carve. You wake to a sky that refuses to commit. It's not night. It's not day. It's the Arctic's in-between, where the sun hovers on the edge of the world like a nosy neighbor. This is the land of no darkness, and it does strange things to your body. You feel rested, but unsure. Your sense of time utterly useless. Outside, the world is frozen theater. Shadows stretch impossibly long, cast by a sun that barely lifts its chin. The snow reflects every angle of light until the ground glows. You squint. You've been squinting since you arrived. It's time. You pull the borrowed goggles from your belt and slide them over your eyes. The world transforms. The slits block the light, leaving only thin strips of vision. But those strips are gold. You can see detail again. Snow ripples, ice fractures, footprints, fur. Even your own breath looks more honest, and your head doesn't throb. Today, the elders say, is a nothing day. No hunt, no storm. Just time. You're to spend it learning which means sitting quietly and carving something smaller than you think matters. They hand you a flat piece of bone curved slightly smooth on one side, porous on the other. Caribou tibia, maybe. Or whale jaw. Doesn't matter. What matters is what you do to it. A boy, no older than 13, sits beside you. He sharpens a stone blade on a rounded rock, slow as a glacier. Then he holds it out. You take it, feel its weight, feel the story embedded in the handle. He gestures. Carve. And you do. Poorly. The first few strokes are awkward. You gouge instead of shape. You snap the edge. You try to sand with snow, which does absolutely nothing. The boy watches, expression unreadable. But when you curse under your breath and glare at the stubborn bone, he smiles. Better than my first, he says. You glance at his work. It's perfect. Slender, symmetrical, 2 slits spaced evenly. The bone has been scorched at the edges to darken it. Some say it helps with glare. Some say it just looks cool. You try again. This time, you listen to the bone. Bone isn't like wood. It doesn't forgive mistakes. It cracks, splits, refuses to be rushed. But it also rewards patience. You learn to shave, not slice. To follow the curve instead of fighting it. You don't just carve, you collaborate. Around you, others are doing the same. A grandmother uses a sharpened tooth to etch decorative lines. A young man carves tiny grooves for the sinew band. Someone adds a notch at the nose bridge to keep it from slipping. You're surrounded by artists in snow pants. At one point, someone plays a joke. They slip a carved mask onto your lap with eye slits so wide it might as well be a dinner plate. The whole circle laughs. The message is clear, narrow slits, narrow light, clear sight. This is function over fashion. But there's fashion too. Bone goggles aren't just survival tools. They're identity. Each pair is unique, custom to the face, the user, even the region. You start to notice subtle differences. Some curve around the brow. Others have triangular slits. A few are dyed with ash or ochre. One man's goggles have tiny ivory inlays. You ask him why. So I remember who I am, he says. That night you lie beside your imperfect goggles. They're a little lopsided, and the slits are uneven. But they're yours. You made them. And when you close your eyes, the world behind your eyelids is darker than usual. Calmer. Easier to sleep in. You don't notice it at first, just a slow ache behind your eyes. A fuzziness to the edges of things. You blame the light, or maybe the lack of sleep. But as the day unfolds, and the world brightens into something almost cruel, it becomes undeniable your eyes are at war with the Arctic. This is snow blindness. It doesn't happen all at once. It sneaks up like frostbite, quiet and rude. The constant reflection of light off snow burns your corneas, without flame, leaving them red swollen, and so sensitive that blinking feels like dragging sandpaper across your eyeballs. You try to tough it out. Bad idea. By midday, you're squinting at everything blinking twice as often, trying not to cry, because crying only makes it worse. Every tear feels like it's boiling off your cheek. An elder notices. He doesn't speak. He just walks over, places a gnarled hand on your shoulder, and slides a fur-wrapped bundle into your lap. Inside is a fresh pair of goggles, simple, darkened bone, 2 narrow slits. You slip them on. Instant relief. The light dims, details return. Your breath calms down. You've joined a long lineage of people who learn to see better by seeing less. The elder finally speaks. We learned this from the snow, and it's true. The snow teaches everything here. It punishes mistakes and rewards humility. It taught the Inuit that bare eyes were vulnerable, that light, too much of it, could be just as dangerous as darkness. Over time they responded not with shields, but with slits. Controlled exposure. Precision. Historians still argue who first thought to carve a visor from bone or wood. Some say it came from watching animals, how caribou squint, how polar bears use shadows. Others believe it emerged from experimentation, trial and error over centuries. One thing is certain, it worked. And it didn't stop with function. The goggles evolved into objects of art and identity. They were shaped differently in various regions, some curved dramatically to follow the cheekbones, others sat flat against the face. Some had a single slit, others 2. The materials varied too: driftwood, caribou, antler, walrus, ivory, even slate. You hear stories around the fire that night. Someone mentions a myth about a hunter who went blind, chasing the aurora because he removed his goggles to see the spirits clearly. Another talks about a shaman whose goggles had 4 slits, 2 for the eyes, 2 for the ancestors. There's debate too. One hunter insists that burning the inside of the slit darkens the light better than ash staining. Another claims you should make the slits as thin as a dog's whisker. Someone else argues for dual-slitted goggles to preserve peripheral vision. They banter, swap goggles, laugh. It's oddly scientific for people surrounded by ice. Your own eyes feel better now. Not healed, but soothed. The goggles do more than block the sun, they give your brain space. Your thoughts slow down. The snow becomes less hostile, more readable. You realize that the goggles aren't just for seeing, they're for thinking. They narrow the world to a manageable frame, a horizon you can handle, a focus point in the blur. Later, lying on a pile of hides, you remove your goggles and stare at the ceiling of the igloo. It's lit softly by a blubber lamp. The light flickers but doesn't glare. Your eyes rest. You close them slowly without pain. Snow blindness taught you something today. The value of restraint, of simplicity, of seeing less so you can understand more. The igloo doesn't creak. It sighs. It shifts almost imperceptibly in the night, settling like a living thing. And in the center of this rounded silence burns a small, steady light. The kulik, or blubber lamp. You sit beside it now, watching the flame with a mix of awe and confusion. It shouldn't work. Nothing here should. The lamp is a bowl carved from soapstone, its edges worn smooth by generations of hands. Inside, seal blubber pools around a moss or Arctic cotton wick. When lit, the oil feeds the flame with surprising elegance. It doesn't roar. It glows. You reach your hands toward it, expecting heat. There is some, but it's gentle, like the sun through a closed eyelid. It's not meant to warm your fingers. It's meant to keep you alive. It melts snow for drinking water. It warms soup. It dries socks stiff from breath-frozen sweat. An elder woman stokes the lamp with a hooked bone tool. She shifts the wick, trims the moss. The flame responds instantly. She doesn't even look. "Watch it too long," she says, "and you'll miss the meat boiling over." You glance behind you. Sure enough, a small pot of seal meat suspended on a bone hook over another lamp is trembling violently. The smell is intense, rich, salty, and a little wild. You're not sure if your stomach growls from hunger or alarm. This is home. The walls are thick blocks of snow stacked in a spiral angled inward to lock into a dome. There's no chimney, just a small hole near the top to let out smoke and moisture. The inside is lined with animal skins, mostly caribou. They trap heat, reduce melt, and make the whole place smell faintly of fur and old stories. Outside, it's chaos. Wind screams across the tundra. Snow darts sideways like tiny daggers. You wouldn't last an hour out there unprotected. But here, it's calm, it's soft, it's almost cozy. You learn that each family has its own lamp, and each lamp has its own personality. Some flare, some sputter, some burn blue at the edges. Children learn to read the lamp's mood before they can read words. You try your hand at maintaining one. It goes poorly. Your wick curls too far. The flame chokes. Smoke pours out, making everyone cough. Someone hands you a fish skin fan to clear the air, while another silently fixes your mess. No one yells. They just chuckle. Everyone ruins the wick once. There's a rhythm to life in the igloo. The lamp is always burning. Even when everyone sleeps, someone wakes periodically to tend it. It's like a heart. You don't turn it off, you nurture it. Later, you see someone using the lamp's flame to singe the edges of a pair of snow goggles. The smoke leaves a thin layer of soot darkening the bone. A hunter explains. It helps cut glare even more. You nod, pretending to understand optics, and make a note to try it on your own pair. The goggles lie beside you now, half-finished, slit, uneven, slightly scorched. They're not beautiful yet, but they will be. You fall asleep to the sound of the lamp's quiet. Pop, the scent of seal meat lingering in your nose, and the comfort of knowing that even in a house made of snow, there's a fire burning just for you. Morning comes, or at least something like it. The light outside hasn't changed much. It just feels slightly less blue. The igloo breathes with soft warmth, and the lamp still flickers like a patient heartbeat. You wake with your goggles pressed into your side, the slits leaving little red lines on your skin. Outside, the snow stretches without apology. But there's something different today people are gathering. You're invited to sit near one of the oldest women in the group. Her parka is faded, stitched with thread that's seen 3 generations. Her hands are cracked, but steady fingers working at something you can't quite see. You sit down slowly, mindful of your own clumsy energy. She doesn't greet you. Not verbally, at least. Instead, she holds out a piece of curved driftwood, maybe 2 palm widths long, with a single slit carved through its center. It's been darkened by smoke, polished by age. This is no beginner's project. You take it carefully. It's impossibly light, smooth like river stone, but not fragile. It smells faintly of oil and ash. She finally speaks. "Borrowed eyes," she says. You look at her confused. When your own eyes are weak, she continues. You borrow better ones. These know the snow. It's not metaphor. These goggles carry memory. They've belonged to several people. Passed down, adapted, maintained. The slit has been widened slightly over time, maybe, to accommodate failing vision or a change in hunting style. The strap is newer braided sinew, still springy. She gestures for you to put them on, and when you do, the snow sharpens again, but differently than before. It's like these goggles know what to look for. You can see subtle shifts in the drifts, catch the shimmer of ice crusts that betray thin layers beneath. A line of wind-scoured snow catches your attention. It's likely a path or a sign that something passed recently. The woman smiles. They work. You see. And then she goes back to her task, carving something small, deliberate, almost meditative. You stay watching. Not just her, but the others. This is a quiet workshop, but no one calls it that. Young and old sit together, passing tools, inspecting work, sharing silence. Occasionally, someone laughs. Once, someone sings, just a little hum, tuneless but comforting. You get the sense that this isn't about productivity. It's about connection. Every goggle carved, every slit adjusted, is part of a much larger language. A conversation with light, with ice, with ancestry. The woman finishes what she's carving, a tiny charm bone shaped into a leaping seal. She places it into a pouch without ceremony. You ask her why she carved it. For the seal, she says. We ate her daughter. This is thanks. Later, she tells you more. About how goggles were once left near sleeping places to see in dreams. About how some were burned with the dead to help them find the path of snow spirits. About how children learned to carve by mimicking the way shadows fell on the snow. Historians might call this superstition. Here it's survival wrapped in reverence. As you prepare to leave, the woman gestures again to the borrowed goggles. You keep, she says, but listen to them. You nod. You don't fully understand. But you will. Because tomorrow you'll carve your own pair, not just to see better, but to carry a sliver of borrowed vision into the ice-covered future. You kneel in the snow bone in one hand, stone tool in the other. The world is quiet, except for the soft scrape of blade on bone. Today is not for walking or hunting or enduring. Today is for making. Your teacher is a boy younger than you, maybe 12. He doesn't speak much, but he watches like a hawk, silent, intense, evaluating every one of your cuts. His own hands move quickly, almost lazily, shaping a strip of caribou bone with such grace it seems like the material is cooperating. You're less fortunate. Your bone is stubborn. The edges chip, the grain runs unexpectedly. Every time you make progress, you accidentally overcut and have to start again. But you're getting better. The motions are no longer foreign. Your fingers remember more than your eyes do. Today's goal is simple. Carve a pair of goggles that work. Not just any goggles. Your goggles. Tailored to the width of your face, the distance between your pupils, the specific shape of your nose. This isn't a one-size-fits-all situation. A bad pair can distort vision, or worse, fail entirely, and leave you blind by noon. The process starts with flattening the bone. This requires soaking it first to soften the grain, then scraping it smooth on a stone slab. You do this under supervision, but with increasing confidence. When the surface feels like a sanded pebble, you nod. Now the slits. Your teacher demonstrates with his own tool, a thin, flaked blade of obsidian tied to a bone handle with sinew. He makes a single stroke, and a perfect slit appears sharp as truth. You try to replicate it. Your first attempt is a gash. Too wide, too deep, useless. You breathe slow down and try again. This time, you get it right. The slit is narrow just enough for a controlled beam of light. Not too thick, not too shallow. You test the view, pressing the goggles gently to your face. Through the gap, The world returns. No glare. Just detail. You feel victorious. The final touches take hours. You carve a shallow groove along the sides to thread the strap. You darken the inner surface with soot from the blubber lamp. The smoke catches in the grain, turning the white bone to a soft charcoal gray. It smells faintly of burnt seal. Someone hands you sinew cord. It's springy, still slightly oily, and you thread it through the grooves, tying a loop on either side. You try them on. They fit. They sit flush against your skin. The slits align perfectly with your eyes. The world looks like a narrow dream, crisp and quiet. The snow no longer blinds. It speaks. Your teacher nods once. Approval. Then, just as you're basking in your small triumph, someone calls from the igloo entrance. They've found a seal. It's hunting time again. Your goggles go into action immediately. You strap them tight, grab your spear, and follow the others across the frozen expanse. The snow glints under a low sun, but you aren't squinting. Your eyes are calm, ready. And in that moment, you realize something else. This wasn't just about carving a tool. It was about becoming someone who could. Someone who understands materials, listens to the land, respects the silence. You didn't just make goggles. You made clarity. And now it's time to put them to use. The sun is low, casting long shadows that shimmer on the snow like spilled silver. You kneel at the edge of a snowdrift, goggles strapped tightly to your face. Around you, others crawl forward slowly, their movements deliberate and measured. Today is a lesson in vision. You've been told this hunt is not about speed. It's about stillness, silence, seeing without seeing too much. And your new goggles are about to earn their keep. Through the slits, your world is narrowed, but that narrowing is a gift. What you lose in width, you gain in focus. It's like someone turned down the brightness and turned up the detail. You can now see the subtle dip in the snow where a seal might surface, the glint of moisture frozen into a dark spot near a breathing hole, the tiny puffs of frost that sometimes betray a living presence beneath. The slits work by limiting the amount of light entering your eyes, but there's more to it than that. By filtering out peripheral distractions, they let your brain prioritize what's directly ahead. It's primitive optics, but incredibly effective. You begin to wonder if modern sunglasses are trying too hard. You whisper this theory to the hunter beside you. He doesn't respond. He's busy measuring wind direction with a pinch of snow tossed into the air. The flakes drift slightly left. He adjusts his crawl by 2 degrees. You follow. Historians still debate the origin of the slit design. Some believe it's a simple result of trial and error. Narrow slits reduce light, improve contrast, and prevent eye strain. Others argue it was a conscious mimicry of the way animals squint or shield their eyes with fur. A few claim the idea was passed along trade routes shared across Arctic cultures and refined by environment. You don't care. It works. At one point, a gust of wind blows snow across your path, momentarily obscuring your view. You instinctively duck goggles tight, head low. The wind passes. You rise again, and the world is exactly where you left it, clear, defined quiet. You reach a known seal hole. The surface is thin, smooth, like crusted sugar. A whisper of vapor rises every few minutes. Breath from the creature below. The hunter motions for you to be still. He unwraps a small harpoon head, checks the line. Everyone around you becomes statues. Even the dogs stop panting. The moment stretches and stretches. You're surprised at how calm you are. The goggles help. They center you. No glare, no distraction. Just the whole. just the silence, just the wait. Then it happens. A shift, a swirl, a tiny splash of breath. The hunter moves so fast it barely registers his arm arcs. The harpoon whistles and the snow erupts. There's a sound like someone slapping wet cloth against rock. Then silence again. He pulls the line gently. Seal. No cheering, no fist pumps. Just quiet thanks spoken in the old language followed by swift, respectful work. The animal is wrapped, lifted, and secured for the return. The snow is dusted smooth, the hole filled. As you walk back, goggles still on the sky begins to darken. Not from night, but from a bank of low clouds rolling in. Your slits help again, defining contrast, sharpening the edge between earth and sky. You marvel at how something so simple, a few scratches in bone, can make survival feel less like desperation and more like grace. By the time you return to camp, you've forgotten what it's like to squint. Your goggles are no longer a tool. They're an extension of your face, of your mind. And you're starting to see the world not just as it is, but as it can be clear, focused, and full of meaning in the smallest of shapes. The morning light slices through the horizon like a blade made of citrus and ice. You step out of the igloo with your goggles already in place. Today, you're not just a wearer, you're a maker. The hunters are gathering tools, but not for hunting. Today's work is about making the things that let you hunt in the first place. You join a small group circling around a wide, flat slab of rock half buried in snow. It's a workshop of sorts. There are no benches or blueprints, just laps and legacy. First up, the snow knife. Someone hands you a long, flat piece of bone sharpened to a fine edge. It's slightly curved with a handle wrapped in leather. The snow knife isn't meant to cut meat. It's for shaping snow blocks, trimming hides, even slicing thin sheets of ice for cooking. You test the blade against a drift, and it glides like a sled. The edge doesn't dull. It whispers. Then come the needles. Tiny, elegant, and painfully precise, these are made from slivers of caribou leg bones. They're drilled at one end, usually with a sharp pebble or a flake of obsidian, and polished until smooth. You try threading one with sinew. Your fingers fumble. A child not more than 6 takes the needle, threads it effortlessly, and hands it back without a word. You thank her. She shrugs. Every tool here is born from what was hunted. It's a closed-loop philosophy. Nothing wasted, everything repurposed. You see goggles being strung with thread made from dried tendons. A man uses a seal tooth to etch patterns into his visor. Another hunter scrapes the hide of a boot with a curved bone that once belonged to a walrus. You take up your own project again, refining your goggles. The slits still feel slightly off, so you use a piece of sandstone to file the edges, not to widen them, just to smooth the insides. One of the elders nods approvingly. Rough vision, rough journey, he says. Smooth sight, smooth walk. You etch a small pattern into the side of the goggles. 3 dots. You don't know why, maybe for balance. Maybe because they look like the stars you saw last night when you stepped outside to pee and accidentally stared into the aurora. Around you, the tool makers don't rush. They hum. They talk softly. They laugh at things that seem unremarkable, like the sound sinew makes when it's stretched, or how bone smells when freshly scraped. You start to understand. These aren't chores, they're rituals. Repetition is memory. Memory is safety. You find yourself drawn to the women sewing boots. The process is surgical. One holds a skin taut, while the other sews. The thread loops in tiny, even stitches that vanish as the fur folds inward. You ask if you can try. You are politely refused. But you can make soles, one says. So you do. You trace your foot onto a piece of dried hide, cut it carefully with the snow knife, and begin punching holes with a bone awl. It's clumsy but functional. And when you're done, you feel oddly proud. You didn't just observe, you contributed. Before the sun climbs too high, the group begins to clean up. Tools are wiped, bundled, and tucked away. Nothing is left behind. The snow is smoothed out with hands and fur brushes, as if the workshop never existed. Back in your igloo, you place your goggles on your sleeping mat. They rest beside your new soles, your practice needle, and a borrowed snow knife. Your toolkit is growing. Your hands are learning. And for the first time you realize this isn't just survival, it's creation. It's culture. It's art, born from frost and patience. And you're part of it now. Today begins with layers. Not metaphorical ones, actual, physical, strategic layers of clothing. You've been invited on a longer trek across open snow, and that means dressing like someone who plans to return. First come the inner wraps, soft moss, and woven sinew bands to insulate your feet. Over those sealskin boots, hand-stitched, waterproofed, with rendered fat. You wiggle your toes inside them and feel a moment of childish joy. Your feet are quite literally toasty. Next, caribou hide leggings, thick and supple, tied with more sinew. Then a parka, long, heavy, hooded, with a slight flare at the bottom that traps warm air like a clever secret. Someone helps you tighten the drawstrings around your face until only your eyes show. The goggles slide neatly into place. Finally, mittens, double layered. You feel like a child bundled too tight for movement. But outside, as the wind tugs at the world, you're grateful for every single layer. The journey begins with sleds. The dogs are excited, tails high, tongues out, paws, dancing in place. The sleds are narrow, made from driftwood lashed with rawhide. No nails, no screws. Every part is bendable, shock-absorbing, obedient to snow. You're given a spot near the rear with a bundle of tools to keep from bouncing off. As you glide across the ice, your goggles filter the landscape. It's all snow, but not all the same. Some areas sparkle like glass, others dull with wind crust. You learn to read it like text. Your guide shouts over the wind. Soft drift ahead, lean left. You do. The sled shifts smoothly. You grin. The further you travel, the more you understand the importance of gear. Nothing is ornamental. Your parka's hood catches wind and shields your neck. Your mittens loop through your sleeves so you won't lose them if they fall. Even your goggles, which you once thought primitive, now feel essential. Historians sometimes call traditional Inuit clothing one of the greatest technological achievements in cold weather history. You agree. Every seam, every tie, every tuck of fur is calculated. And beautiful, too. You notice embroidery along the sleeve of your guide's parka, tiny lines that form a wave pattern. Not decorative. It indicates the maker, a signature in thread. You pause for lunch. It's not sandwiches and trail mix, it's dried fish, frozen fat chunks, and a chewy strip of caribou tendon. High energy, high calorie, utterly utilitarian. You chew slowly, letting the warmth from your breath thaw each bite. A fellow traveler passes around a flask of melted snow water. It's slightly smoky, melted over a blubber lamp, but refreshing. You sip and hand it back with a nod. Then back to the sleds. As the afternoon stretches, a light snow begins to fall. The world blurs, softening at the edges. But your goggles bless those slits, keep your vision focused. You see enough. No more, no less. It's almost philosophical. At camp that evening, your group unpacks and begins the slow process of warming up. Boots come off. Gloves hang near lamps. You rub your feet, flex your fingers, and realize how few things you've taken for granted today. Every item you wore, rode, or used was made by hand with purpose, often by someone you now call by name. You remove your goggles last. The world floods with light. But instead of pain, there's just softness. Your eyes have adapted, not just to the glare, but to what it means to see clearly. And tomorrow you'll learn to dance with the snow. There's a trick to walking on snow without sinking. You learn this by watching not from explanation. The hunters move with a grace that looks casual, but is anything but. Their steps land lightly, spread weight evenly read the surface before committing. Today you try to follow their lead. You start to notice things you hadn't before. A gleam here, a dull patch there. The snow isn't one flat color, it's a spectrum of whites and blues and silvers, each telling a story. You look through your goggles, and the glare is muted, controlled. Contrast sharpens. Patterns emerge. This is where you learn the science behind it all, not from textbooks, but from walking. The snow's reflectivity, its albedo, is absurdly high. It bounces nearly all the sunlight right back into your face. Without protection, your eyes would be fried in hours. But with goggles, your eyes adjust. You begin to trust your vision again. You come across a ridge where the snow crests in gentle waves. The sunlight strikes it at just the right angle to make it glow. Someone beside you gestures, then points. Thin ice, they say. Reflects sharper. You squint. They're right. The reflection is unnaturally crisp. Your goggles help you see the nuance, a sharp glint that means danger. You steer clear. You think about how modern sunglasses might block light, but they rarely teach you to understand it. These goggles, simple and slit-bound, do more. They train your eyes. They educate you through limitation. You stop and kneel, pressing your hand into a drift. It holds, then gives. The surface tension tells you it's fresh snow blown in overnight. Nothing has walked here since. You rise knowing that knowledge came through sight filtered and focused. Historians still puzzle over how precise the slit width should be. Too narrow and it limits your view. Too wide and the protection fades. Some believe the perfect width is about 2 millimeters. Others say it varies by latitude and snow type. Some Inuit used triangular slits to allow vertical focus, others preferred straight horizontal ones for scanning the horizon. There's no consensus. But you're starting to form your own opinion. You test out a spare pair someone loaned you of flatter style, wider slits. The snow glares more. Details fade. You quietly return them and slip your own pair back on. Better. Sharper. Yours. Later, during a rest break, a hunter carves into the side of his goggles with a sharpened nail. Not for decoration, he's adjusting the slit angle. He holds it to the light, checks the view adjusts again. Sun's lower today, he mutters. Need a sharper cut. It's optics. It's art. It's survival engineering performed with a piece of caribou bone and a gut instinct. As the sun begins to set, finally after hours of stubborn hovering, the snow changes again. It reddens. The glare softens, but the shadows deepen. You notice how the terrain becomes harder to judge. One wrong step could mean a twisted ankle, or worse. But your goggles help once more. They reduce the intensity just enough. Let the details return. You see the shift in depth, the dip in a slope that might have gone unnoticed. You step carefully and feel the reward in your balance. By the time you reach camp, your cheeks are red, but your eyes are calm. No burn, no strain. Just a pleasant ache of having truly looked at something all day. You take off the goggles and exhale. Tomorrow they say you'll hunt again, but tonight you sleep with the goggles beside you like a talisman, or maybe like a teacher. Either way, they've earned your trust. You crawl. That's the first thing you learn about seal hunting. You don't walk. You don't stand. You lower yourself to the snow like you're offering it your pride and slide forward on your belly, elbows, and knees, doing the slow, careful work. The goggles stay strapped tight. The sun is sharp, bouncing off the flat ice like a mirror angled directly at your skull. But through the slits, everything becomes manageable. Less overwhelming. You're focused on one thing, the hole. Seal breathing holes are small, often invisible to the untrained eye. But your guide spots one from 20 paces and signals with a flick of the wrist. You both drop flat and begin the crawl. The snow tells stories. You notice faint marks where something recently hauled itself across the ice seal drag, maybe. Your goggles let you follow the trail, not with wide-eyed wonder, but with controlled precision. Every twitch of your neck is intentional, every blink filtered. The guide holds up a hand. You freeze. The breathing hole is the head, a faint circle of slightly different snow, the kind that suggests thinness beneath. You inch forward, positioning yourself at the angle he indicates. The wind's at your back, which would be bad, if not for the grease rubbed into your clothes to dampen scent. You wait. Minutes stretch, then a puff. Just the faintest hint of breath escaping from the ice. The guide doesn't move. You don't either. Another puff, then the guide's arm shifts. Slow, deliberate. His harpoon made of wood bone and cord rises like a question. The seal breathes again. The harpoon flies. A sound, not loud, not violent. Just final. You rush forward and help secure the line. The seal is pulled up quiet, heavy with winter fat. You help with the binding. It's not celebration. It's reverence. There's a small prayer spoken, not shouted. Thanksgiving. Life taken with care. Your goggles don't leave your face until it's done. You realize then how essential they are, not just for vision, but for patience, for the focus required to lie still, to watch snow for hours, to notice vapor in a world of mist. Later, back at camp, you help prepare the seal. Every part is used. The fat will feed lamps. The skin will become clothing. The bones, well, some might even become goggles. A quiet thought, but not a morbid one. It's continuity. That night, someone tells a story by firelight. A tale of a hunter who once chased a seal across a frozen bay, his eyes so burnt by the snow's glare that he couldn't tell ice from sky. He fell through a patch so thin it looked like cloud. His body was never found, but later his goggles washed ashore, slits still intact. You glance down at yours. They rest on your lap edges, scorched straps stiff with salt. You run a finger across the groove where your knife slipped earlier in the week. It doesn't matter. They work. And you sleep knowing tomorrow you'll crawl again. Eyes narrow, mind open, body low to the earth, exactly as it should be. You sit in a circle that isn't quite formal, but isn't casual either. The snow has been flattened, intentionally marked at the corners with small stones like someone drew a room on the ice. The hunters gather. Not to hunt, not to eat, but to talk. At the center of the circle lies a spread of bone goggles, some old, some freshly carved, some wrapped in sinew cords, others still raw and waiting for final sanding. Today you're going to learn that vision isn't just physical. it's also communal. You listen. One hunter holds up a pair of goggles with 2 slits wide apart and tilts them toward the sun. "These are for tracking in open tundra," he says. "You see horizon, not shadow." Another counters holding a flatter, closer slitted pair. Too wide. You lose detail. Good for nothing but falling into holes. They chuckle. It's not argument in the angry sense. It's debate. The kind that repeats every season, reshaped by weather and memory. They pass goggles back and forth, compare them on their faces, even let you try. You notice the difference instantly. The wider slits let in more light, useful, yes, but riskier in high glare. The narrower ones sharpen focus, but make your head feel boxed in. One set has a curved top edge, allowing more visibility downward. Another curves underneath, better for scanning the skyline. Someone pulls out a pair made from driftwood instead of bone. Bearing straight style, he says. They're lighter, wider, better for damp conditions. Another hunter pulls a carved antler set with a single vertical slit and shrugs. "This one's just a mess with people." You laugh. But the conversation shifts again. "Remember the trader from the south," one man says. "He brought glass goggles once, said they were better." Everyone pauses. "Did he come back, oh?" That settles that. You learn that some tribes traded goggles like currency, offering salt or fish oil in exchange. Others guarded their designs like secrets. A few even believed the patterns carved into the edges circles. Triangles. Animal shapes held protective power. Not from spirits necessarily, but from the landscape itself. You speak up. Why not just all agree on one best design? An older hunter raises an eyebrow. Because snow isn't the same twice. Why should goggles be? You nod. Later, someone places a new set in your lap. Driftwood delicately curved with slits cut at a slight upward angle. "Try these on ice tomorrow," they say. "Good for glare bounce." You admire the craftsmanship. The slits are straight precise. A faint symbol, 3 waves, has been carved above the nose bridge. You ask what it means. "It means I made them when I was young," the maker says. "Back when I thought I knew what I was doing." Everyone laughs. As the debate winds down, someone brews snowmelt tea with a pinch of lichen. It's earthy, bitter grounding. The goggles are passed around again, not for testing now, but for storytelling. Each pair has a journey. Each journey has a joke. And you realize something. Vision, true vision, isn't about finding the one perfect way to see. It's about choosing the view that suits the moment. The snow changes, the sky shifts. So should your goggles. When you lie down to sleep that night, you place 3 pairs beside you, your original bone ones, the scorched set you carved in the driftwood experiment. Tomorrow, you'll decide which story you want to see through. The wind has settled. The dogs are sleeping. You find yourself inside the largest igloo in the camp, where the elders gather after nightfall. A small fire crackles in a stone-lined basin, unusual for a snow house, but this one is special. It's vented just right, built wide, reinforced with layers of snow and hide. Tonight, it's not about hunting or carving or stitching. Tonight is for stories. You sit beside a man with long braids and a voice like creaking ice. He wears a bone pendant shaped like a crescent moon and holds an object wrapped in fur. With a dramatic pause that would make any stage actor jealous, he unwraps it. Goggles. Old goggles. The bone is yellowed, nearly ivory. The slits are thin, but not symmetrical. There are carvings all along the edges. Tiny fish birds in flight, abstract swirls that seem to move when you tilt them in the firelight. These, he begins, were carved by a dreamer. You lean in. He tells the tale of the hunter who followed a white seal for 3 days and nights. A seal with blue eyes said to be the spirit of an ancestor. The hunter wore goggles he'd carved in a trance guided by visions. He claimed the slits allowed him to see what others miss. Whether he caught the seal or simply wandered into legend, no one knows. Another elder chimes in. She carved hers from driftwood that washed ashore during a storm, said the wood still whispered, wore them until the slits faded. Someone chuckles. Did the whispers stop? No. She just got better at ignoring them. The room hums with quiet laughter. More stories come, some rooted in history, others soaked in myth. One about a boy who carved goggles with 3 slits, claiming it helped him track fast shadows. One about a trader who brought copper goggles and was never seen again after a polar bear allegedly mistook him for a fish. Not every tale is serious. Some are clearly jokes passed down for the sake of amusement, like the woman who supposedly used her goggles to keep her children from seeing where she hid the dried meat. Narrow slits, she said, mean narrow mischief. You notice how everyone in the room handles goggles with a strange reverence, even while laughing, as if each pair contains echoes, memory, maybe even magic. You hold your own goggles now, running your fingers along their edge. No carvings yet, no swirls or fish, but maybe someday. The elder across from you leans in. Carve something he says. Like what? Something true. You sit in the flickering light and think, what truth do you want to etch into your vision? What symbol belongs to you? You pick up a shard of bone and begin to scratch. The night wears on. Outside, the aurora stirs faintly, a green ribbon teased across the sky. You step out briefly, goggles still in hand, and stare up. The lights ripple slowly like breath underwater. You wonder how many generations before you looked up at this same sky with slitted eyes and saw not just color, but story. When you return to your sleeping mat, your goggles are no longer just a tool. They are part of your voice. Tomorrow, they'll guide you again. But tonight, they listen. You wake to hushed voices outside the igloo. Not urgent, just low, measured, respectful. Something's being discussed, and from the cadence, you can tell it's not weather or food. You step out, goggles in hand, and see a small group gathered near the sleds. They're hunched over something in the snow. As you draw closer, you see what's drawn them together, goggles. Several pairs, each slightly different. Some finished, some broken. Some marked with deep, careful notches. There's tension in the air. 2 hunters stand side by side, holding out their respective designs. One holds a set with a single narrow slit across both eyes, a minimalist approach that favors simplicity and stealth. The other has 2 sharply angled slits carved diagonally to match the tilt of the setting sun. A debate has begun. You don't hear shouting. That's not how they do things here. But you can tell this is serious. The question at hand, what makes a perfect pair? The elder with the crescent pendant gestures for silence and speaks. Slit size is survival. Make it wrong, you don't see the crack. You fall. The younger hunter shakes his head. Too narrow, and I lose the seal's breath in glare. They both have a point. You're handed each set in turn. You try them on. The single slit offers a clean, panoramic view. Quiet, calm, balanced. The angled slits bring in more light from below, but sharpen your focus at a distance. You can feel the difference in your posture when wearing each. It's not just a design choice, it's a philosophy. Around the circle, others chime in. 2 slits for scouting, 1 for hunting. Wider in the morning, narrower near sunset. Some ancestors shaped theirs like a crescent. Others made slits like fish eyes. Historians would love this moment proof that the designs weren't random, that each pair was tailored not just to an individual, but to conditions, to tasks, to regions. One of the elders pulls out a particularly strange pair. The slits are offset one higher than the other. Made these when I was seeing double he jokes. Helped me trick my eyes into behaving. Everyone laughs. Then another woman pulls out a set with 3 slits, 2 normal and 1 tiny slit above the right eye. Storm goggles, she explains. That top one's for cloud watching. Wind tells you things if you listen. You're overwhelmed and fascinated. These aren't tools. They're experiments. Generational science projects, and everyone here has a theory. The conversation ends the way it began. Not with consensus, but with a quiet shrug. Snow changes. So do people. What works today may not tomorrow, but each design holds truth. Before you leave, someone hands you a blank bone strip. Try a different shape, they say. See what it teaches you. That night back in your igloo, you light a small blubber lamp and begin to carve. This time, not for necessity, for curiosity. You don't know if this new pair will work better. You're not even sure what better means anymore. But you do know the slit you carve will show you something new. And in that thin slice of vision framed by your own hand, you'll discover a version of the world no one else has quite seen before. The night sky is clear. Too clear. The kind of clarity that makes the stars feel intrusive, like they're watching you instead of the other way around. Someone nudges you awake, not roughly, but with urgency. Lights, they whisper. You're on your feet, instantly slipping into your parka, grabbing your goggles. Not because it's bright, this isn't sun glare, but because that's the habit now. Goggles first, eyes later. Outside, the camp is buzzing quietly. People are staring upward toward the shimmering curtain of green that drapes across the black. The aurora borealis is dancing, slowly, regally, like it knows you're watching. You lift your goggles to your face and pause. The slits frame the light in a way you've never seen before. Instead of a sweeping display, it becomes ribbons, narrow and crisp. The contrast is stark. What was once dreamy is now detailed. The light pulses in long waves, and through your goggles, it's like you're reading a coded message. You glance around. Others are doing the same, watching with narrowed vision. One elder chuckles. They say if you look straight at it too long, your spirit might follow it. You nod. Seems believable. The aurora continues slow and mesmerizing. You shift your goggles slightly, aligning the slits vertically instead of horizontally, just to see what happens. The effect changes. The lights become pillars instead of waves, like standing inside a forest made of cold fire. You whisper this to the hunter beside you. He tries it, tilts his head, and lets out a surprised breath. It does look different, he murmurs. A small group begins to experiment, swapping goggles, rotating angles. Laughter bubbles up, quiet, amazed. This is science. This is play. This is awe with a side of optics. One woman leans back into the snow using her fur hood as a pillow. I used to think the lights were just decoration, she says, but they tell stories. You ask which ones. She points upward. That one there, when it splits like that means the weather will turn. Ice shift coming. Another points to a flicker on the horizon. That's a soul climbing. You don't ask how they know. You just listen. Historians still argue over the meaning of the aurora in indigenous cultures. Was it myth? Weather sign's spiritual roadmap? The answer, it seems, is yes. All of it. And none of it. It depends who's watching and how. You lie back too. The snow is hard but comforting, cold enough to keep you grounded. Your goggles frame the sky in tight bands, forcing you to see not just the light, but its rhythm. You wonder what modern astronomers would say if they lay here now, squinting through bone. Would they understand the way the light speaks? Or would they miss it, blinded by the need for a telescope? Someone sings, softly, without words. Just a hum carried by the snow like breath. You close your eyes briefly, then open them again. The aurora hasn't moved. Or maybe it has. You can't tell anymore. Your goggles slip slightly, and the slit catches a star dead center. It winks at you. You smile just a little and fall asleep under a sky that doesn't need to explain itself. You hear the sleds before you see them. Wood creaking under tension. Dogs padding over hard-packed snow voices, calling in a language unfamiliar, but strangely rhythmic. Visitors. They arrive in a slow procession. Fur coats, long rifles slung carelessly, wide eyes blinking against the glare. Outsiders, colonizers, explorers perhaps. Their clothes are impressive by southern standards, heavy wool, brass buttons, polished boots, but here they look like costumed actors on the wrong set. You watch from behind your goggles. They don't have goggles. At first they squint, then wince, then begin to complain. The sun reflects off the snow like vengeance. One man pulls a fur hat low over his face. Another tries to fashion makeshift eye covers from a handkerchief and leather cord. Neither works. Their eyes turn pink by afternoon. You offer a spare set of goggles, your practice pair slits still rough but usable. One accepts it with skepticism. He peers through the slits and chuckles. Primitive sunglasses. You shrug. Sure. He wears them for an hour, then takes them off, claiming they hurt his vision. By evening, he's nursing swollen eyelids. You hear him mutter something about curse of the north. The irony isn't lost on anyone. That night, your camp is quiet. The visitors sit apart, tents pitched with clumsy stakes, smoke curling upward from metal stoves that hiss instead of glow. You sit near your blubber lamp, gently sanding a new pair of goggles. The group around you chats, but in a different cadence, now quieter, tighter. They always come with new tools, someone murmurs. But never to learn. You think of the goggles again. How simple they are. How effective. How utterly misunderstood. Historians later write about this meeting. They describe an exchange of technologies, but the records miss the part where one visitor tried to wear goggles upside down. Miss the part where a child whispered, "They think their eyes are smarter than the sun." By the next morning, 2 of the men can't see clearly. One has to be led around by the arm. Snow blindness has taken hold, and still they resist the goggles. One woman, an interpreter, perhaps finally accepts a pair. She says nothing, but wears them all day. She's the only one not shielding her face by sunset. Your own goggles feel like armor now. Not because they're flashy or thick or modern, but because they work. Because they come from knowing, not guessing. You remember one elder saying tools don't care who made them, but people care who listens. And these visitors haven't listened. Not really. They take notes. They sketch. One man even tries to trace your goggles into his leather journal like a butterfly pinned to a page. But the difference between tracing and carving is everything. Later, as the visitors prepare to leave, one of them approaches you. He gestures to your goggles. "Can I buy them?" You shake your head. "They're not for sale." He offers you a coin. You look at it. Shiny, heavy, completely useless out here. You hand him a piece of bone instead. "Carve your own," you say. He frowns but takes it. As they vanish over the ridge, your camp returns to normal. The stories resume. The fire crackles. Your goggles rest on your lap, slit side up, catching the last golden light of day. And you realize this wasn't just a meeting of worlds. It was a lesson. One they may never learn. But you have. You sit on a low snowbank near the camp's edge, watching the horizon burn faint orange. It's one of those Arctic sunsets that lingers for hours, never fully committing to darkness. Beside you, an elder shifts slightly in his seat, bones creaking like old sledwood. He's watching someone too, a young anthropologist scribbling in a notebook far too close to the edge of the dog's patience. He's drawing the goggles again, the elder murmurs. You nod. The visitor has been here 3 days, and in that time he's measured, photographed, and cataloged nearly every pair of snow goggles he can find. He's polite enough, curious earnest even, but also slightly off. He called them fashion accessories yesterday, the elder says, face unreadable. You wince. It's not uncommon. Over time, you've come to realize that many outsiders arrive believing they already understand the essentials. They see something elegant handmade and immediately assign it an aesthetic purpose. Art without function, form without history. You've seen the goggles reduced to museum pieces before labeled indigenous eyewear filed under curiosities. But here, their legacy. That same elder gets up slowly and approaches the visitor. You follow a few steps behind. The anthropologist is sketching a beautiful pear, ivory inlay, double slits, seal, etching along the brow. They're ceremonial, right? The man asks, pen poised, worn during ritual dances. The elder doesn't answer right away. He takes the goggles from the snow and turns them over in his hands. These, he says slowly, were carved by my uncle. He wore them to hunt his last seal. They aren't for dancing. The anthropologist blinks. But the carving, surely that means... It means he liked seals. The elder replies deadpan. There's a pause, then laughter. Soft but undeniable. The man closes his notebook embarrassed. You step in gently. They work, you say. That's the whole point. Later in the igloo, a few of the community members pass around copies of the visitor's sketches. Some are well done, others wildly inaccurate. One set is drawn with the slits on the forehead. Another has been exaggerated with rhinestones for some reason. They always miss the part where you need to wear them to understand them, someone mutters. You get it now. Understanding doesn't come from tracing outlines or recording dimensions. It comes from squinting through the slits while the snow blinds the unprepared. It comes from standing on a frozen lake breath, fogging in your mask, spotting a seal's breath because your eyes are filtered just enough. It comes from use. You think of the goggles you've carved, worn, broken, repaired. Each one carries marks of weather, of trial, of error. No textbook or thesis can explain what it means to learn. With your face in the wind. Before bed, you pass by the anthropologist's tent. He's inside, holding a pair of goggles up to the light, squinting through them curiously, not for data, but for experience. He doesn't take notes, just looks, adjusts, tilts his head. Maybe he's starting to get it. You smile. Some lessons take longer than others, but everyone starts with the same 2 slits and a face full of light. The wind has gone still. The sky is soft and pale like brushed linen. You step outside with your goggles in hand, not out of habit now, but as part of something sacred. This morning you'll do what many before you have done, walk into the light prepared. You slide the goggles over your face. They fit differently today. Not physically, spiritually. They feel like a part of your thinking, like a narrowed focus that steadies everything else. Around you, the camp is quiet. A few people are packing, a few tending to dogs. You're not going far, just a walk, just enough to feel the land underneath your boots and the light above your brow. You walk slowly. The goggles cut the world into ribbons. Glare becomes glow. Shadows stretch long and legible. You see every ripple in the snow, every nuance in the drift. The slits turn your field of view into language, one sentence at a time. You pass an old carving site familiar now. There's a half-buried piece of antler and a forgotten strap of sinew. You pick it up without thinking, clean it, tuck it into your pocket. A few hundred paces later, you crest a hill and pause. The view stretches wide, white and sky. Nothing between. But you don't feel alone. You feel wind. You remember the first day, eyes burning, stumbling, lost in light. You remember that first awkward cut into bone. The crack, the do-over, the patience. You remember the seal hunt, the soft breath rising from the ice, the waiting. And you remember the debate, the curved slits, the wide slits. The unnecessary three-slit joke that still makes you smile. The snow whispers under your feet. It accepts you now. Not because you conquered it, but because you respected it, saw it, heard it. Your goggles have become more than a filter. They are a philosophy. See only what you need. Let the rest drift past. You return to camp slowly. The sun is higher now, but it doesn't overwhelm. Your eyes adjust through the slits, and you feel calm, capable, clear. You take off the goggles and trace the edges with your thumb. They're slightly chipped. The cord is frayed. There's a stain along the bridge that won't scrub off, and they're perfect. Someone calls your name supper, maybe, or another lesson. You tuck the goggles into your coat and smile. This design, this 1,000-year-old invention still works, still protects, still teaches. You walk back into the fold of people and light slits, narrowing the world just enough to keep it beautiful. And as the day fades, you close your eyes. Darkness comes slowly, but it's welcome now. The snow is soft. The wind has settled. The sky, once so bright and wild, now lulls itself into blue-gray calm. You lie on your sleeping mat, still in your layers, the warmth wrapped around you like a second skin. The camp murmurs faintly in the distance, crackling lamps, quiet. Footsteps, the occasional bark of a dog rolling in sleep. The goggles rest beside you. They don't glow. They don't hum. But they hold stories. Not just of you, but of every hand that ever shaped a slit in bone. Of every eye shielded from the relentless Arctic glare. Of every hunter who crouched low, waited long, and watched with focus, so narrow the world felt almost still. You let your breath slow. The flickering lamp makes long shadows dance on the curved walls of the igloo. They stretch, shrink, and stretch again like the stories they carry. And as your body eases, your mind follows. The cold stays outside. The noise fades. The light dims. You are warm. You are safe. And you have seen. Sleep now. Let the snow whisper. Let the world blur. You've earned your rest.